David Moore, Dallas Morning News.
David?
Mike?
David?
What went into your decision to acquire Hankins, and just how do you envision using him going forward?
Definitely. It's having an opportunity personally to compete against Jonathan both in New York and with the Raiders. We just feel he's an excellent fit for us. We can never bolster our run defense enough. We feel that's clearly how people are, their primary approach to us as far as trying to attack our defense. And I think he's an excellent addition.
Todd Archer of the ESPN. How is Zeke, and do you expect him to practice today?
No, Zeke will not practice today. He will work exclusively with Britt in the rehab group.
How does the bye week impact what you may or may not do with him?
No, I mean that's just not the way we approach it. So we'll just see how he responds today, and and Britt will continue to build the plan, based off of what they accomplished today.
Clarence Hill, getting back to Hankins, what does he have left? 10 years in the league. Can you talk about what you expect him to do?
Well, I think starting just with building off what I've already said about the run defense. He's an anchor player, very smart. I think playing scheme diversity. Going from the Giants and playing in the Raiders scheme last year, playing in a different scheme this year. More two gap and how they play. So I think he brings that experience. Everything we're told is excellent locker room guy, and I think he's, once again, I want to be redundant. I think he's just a really good fit for us.
Calvin Watkins, Dallas Morning News. Do you expect him to play this weekend? I assume so, since he's.
Can we watch him practice first? Yeah. So yeah, but no, but I mean, he's. I think he'll come right in here and get going. So I'm excited to see him practice.
What does that say about Gallimore? I know he was inactive against the Lions. What does it say about where he fits in your rotation?
Well, we can't have enough of the Neville Gallimores, Hankins, all these guys. So you cannot have enough big men in your building. I think we've stated that clearly, from day one here, and particularly the body types that we're really focusing on in our defensive front. So that's really the mindset.
Mike McCarthy, Dallas Morning News. Is it a challenge to keep that many big men in the building together, just given the constraints of a 53-man roster and the number of quality defensive linemen you guys have, especially with Basham getting on the bench?
I think it's a good challenge. I think it's a good challenge to have. I think anytime you have, plenty of good football players, and especially that fit to how you prefer to play, I'd rather be in this position than be on the other side of it. Yes.
Tori Epstein, Yahoo Sports. Y'all talked about how Dak didn't have a full week of practice last week given the Sunday night game. What can he do this week that he didn't do last week, and what do you want to see from him?
Well, what can he do? I just think, clearly having a full Wednesday is, he'll be further ahead, clearly than he was this time last week. He's stating the obvious. So just really just work the plan and, make sure we get the throws that we need. And, it's important for the look teams. And, this is something we do every Wednesday morning. Make sure the look teams, this is a different defense, particularly how they play their corners. So, it's similar to the defense we saw last week as far as the front and the movement and, the philosophy, the family of defense that it comes from. So you do have a little bit of carryover there. But just really to make sure we get the looks and get the throws done that we want to focus on for the game.
Hey, Mike, Patrick Walker, DallasCowboys.com. Looks like the 21-day window for Damone Clark has arrived. Are you guys looking to activate him? And if so, is the plan to start him on special teams and ramp him up?
Well, we want to give him every opportunity to compete, to be up, and once again, all these questions will be answered, after Saturday's practice. But I thought he looked really good last week in practice, so I'm excited to see him go again today.
Mike, Haley Sutton, DallasCowboys.com. In regards to bringing in guys mid-season, what are the challenges, I guess, that, when it comes to adjusting? And from your perspective, how long are you looking to see them before they get acclimated? What are you looking for, I guess, in that window? Well,
I think the biggest thing is, we've had a chance to watch him, and he's obviously been active and he's been playing. So, the biggest part of change is nomenclature. Once you get comfortable with the nomenclature and the specifics. Conceptually, I don't think he'll have any issues picking up, the things, how we play here. But it's, it's just getting the timing and the communication down and just make sure we're, it's all tied together. So, and you can only find that out in practice.
Colin.
How much has playing Daniel Jones moved around a little bit earlier in the year, and then Hurts kind of can be a good little prep for what you might see on Sunday?
Yeah, definitely. But I think Fields is dynamic. I was so impressed with them Monday night. I thought they did a really nice job coming out of their bye week. They hit some scheme runs, in the game against New England. So, and that's what you really pay attention to. So he can make plays. He's a playmaker. So, but yeah, I agree with you. I think more Jalen Hurts is probably a good comparable, and just the way they play and really the stress that they put on your run defense with the quarterback emphasis. He's we're treating him as a primary ball carrier, and you have to, because he can change the game.
Brad Shan, Cowboys Radio. Following up on that, Mike, are there schematic differences between the way Philadelphia plays their RPO and the way the Bears play theirs?
I would say so, yes. But I think you can see Chicago in this last game starting to lean more towards that. I think when you look at the history of Luke Getsy and what I think they were trying to do early, and I think every first-year coordinator goes through this. And this is October. This is when you really figure out who you are and your ability to grow. And I thought that they really took a big step as a football team Monday night.
Christy Scales, Cowboys Radio. Following up on Getsy, did you know him when he was at Pitt, or you brought him in to begin his NFL coaching career?
Yeah, definitely. Luke used to cut through my backyard when I coached at the University of Pittsburgh, and he was a little tyke up there at Steel Valley. So, yeah, I've known Luke a long time. Just really proud of what he's accomplished in this league. He's an excellent, excellent young coach.
Michael.
Without getting into the scheme itself, you guys
Is that feasible here, or is this?
I was curious about the creative process behind the 23 grouping that you guys did in the fourth quarter near the goal line. That was the first time you guys have done that. What's that like in terms of the creative process of is that something just Cullen presents, or what's the conception and origin of the creative package?
This really starts back in the off season. These are all part of your situational studies and building your menus. When I look at 23 personnel in short yards and goal line, I know my introduction in the league, that was a primary personnel group. And, I just look back at the days in Marcus Allen in Kansas City, and I think it's a stressor on the defense, and it's a different way to run the football and the things that come off of that too. So we definitely have that ability, but it is part of our, I would say, our installation process, things we do throughout the spring and do throughout training camp. So I think you're just seeing some of those things come to light, particularly in situation football.
Babe.
Babe Loffler, Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. You hate to look at one game and say a team found an identity, but like last year, Philadelphia, in first 7 games, they threw it more than anybody in the NFL. In the last, what are we at, 17 now? Do the math. 10, they ran it more. Have you found that at a certain point in the season, in your experience, that teams kind of find themselves and you say, okay, and Chicago week 8, last year Philadelphia week 8, or how far along do you go before you say, okay, this is what we are, this is what they are?
Definitely. I think that's a huge part of being successful in this league. I think you have to identify mile markers in every season. I looked at last year's schedule. I thought it really, the way it laid out, it broke up into 3 segments. I think clearly the way our schedule's set this year, it's set in. I've set the plan for 4 quarters, and there's definitely markers that you have to pay attention to. September football to me has been pretty consistent. Probably since 2012, 2013. So say the last 10 years has been pretty consistent. Where, as the training regimens continue for the players and coaches have less time together, I think it's definitely affects September football. I don't know how you cannot identify with that. So I think the ability to win at that time of year is, you have to do things a little differently. So the injury component's always part of that, because we all want to come out of training camp, win games, but continue to grow as a football team. So, but when you do have the injury challenge, it does affect it. But October to me has always been a time, right around Halloween, where things, teams start to, who they are. Ron Wolf used to say this in Green Bay all the time, that, every team's going to win the Super Bowl week 1. You know, October comes, now it starts to separate. So, and there's definitely some truth to that. So I think it's important to stay in touch with that, and that's why you just don't look at the last 4 games. You know, but you have a new coordinator. You know, how did they start off? How did they come out of camp? You know, because at the end of the day, we got to make sure our players, we give them the preparation that they're prepared to. You know, the unscouted looks. You know, they just come off a bye week, and obviously they had unscouted looks in the New England game. So that, that's really where our focus is. But I do think people, teams clearly start to identify themselves in October.
Skylar Dixon with the AP, back on field. So from what you've seen on film, what kind of growth have you seen out of him? And was there anything on Monday night that kind of illustrated to you how he's coming along?
Yeah, I think he's clearly playing with more confidence than I recall last year. Not that I've studied him a whole lot, but I was at his workout in Ohio State. And obviously, the physical gifts were very apparent that day. I mean, I think he ran like 4.41 and slipped on the start. So I mean, you can see he's a very, very gifted athlete. So he can make all the throws. And I just think, like anything, finding their sweet spot of, how to play him, how he fits with the perimeter players. And, they've had some injuries to the offensive line. They got 2 dynamic backs. So, I think they're definitely, I was very impressed with the way they played in New England.
Getting back to him and getting back to Zeke for a second. Is it a sprained knee? Is it similar to what he did last year? What he did with last year?
It's definitely classified as a knee sprain, but it's not the same as last year.
Okay. MRI, any tears?
Oh, I'm not going to get into that. That's a question for Zeke. I mean, the personal components of injuries, frankly, that's for the players to discuss.
With Pollard, if he's needed to carry a full load, what's your faith and confidence that he can do more than 12, 14 carries?
Oh, definitely. I mean, Tony, I think is that we're so fortunate to have both Tony and Zeke here. So I think they're both fully capable of carrying a full load.
How has Malik Davis grown since training camp?
I'll tell you what, I think really he's one of the players that took a huge jump in the preseason games. I think just like anything, that's why you practice and that's why you ultimately play the games. But I thought his natural run instinct really came to light in the preseason games, and I think he's definitely getting more and more comfortable with his reps, especially on special teams. So I think he's gotten better each week.
Have you seen Pollard improve as a north-south runner since you've been here? And is he taking some of the Zeke type of carries now more than maybe he did?
I mean, I can't really speak, on Tony prior to my arrival, but I've always been impressed with, I call it calm and color running. I think Tony Pollard is a very good between the tackles runner because he's in the crease as it opens. And I think that's a huge characteristic to I've always looked for when you're evaluating running backs. So his ability to accelerate the crease, I think he does an excellent job of it. So I would definitely classify him as an excellent between the tackles runner.
You talk about it this time of year, you kind of know who you are across the league. What do you think of the division so far?
Pretty damn good. No, I think it's great. I think it's great for hey, trust me, I think you'd all like to jump out to the lead and go, but my experience has been, I think the competitive game, that you have during the week, winning in the fourth quarter, there's so much value in that, and I think no different in the division race. So, it keeps the focus tight. I think it's very healthy to go through it as a team. I mean, obviously, both teams that are doing very well. I mean, that's good to see. But I think as a whole, I think it makes us all better.
When it seems as RPO reliant as the Bears are, illegal man downfield penalties, is that something that can happen or tend to happen in that style of offense? Is that something you look for, perhaps even flag pregame?
Do you really want me to answer this the way I'm thinking about it right now, or should I? Is this a slap back? I'll with all your great film study, you're more than welcome to send it on to the league office, okay? Because I sent a reel up there on Friday before Philly. You see what that got me. So,
all righty.
All right, thank you.